Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James. Here I like to explore the world of fountain pens, ink, and paper, and lately I've been exploring AliExpress, and this pen is from there. This is the Tangmoon acrylic pen with a Schmidt nib. I have not found an actual model name other than a Tangmoon acrylic pen. I'm not familiar with Tangmoon. Tang, of course, is the name of a Chinese dynasty, and it is one of their emperors that claimed to have been taken on a mystical trip to the moon. So I don't know if there's a tie to that or the company Tang that makes mooncakes. Maybe the owner just really likes them. I have no idea. Maybe you could tell me in the comments below if you're more familiar with this company. Anywho, we're going to look at this pen and see whether or not it writes well. I'm going to give you a close-up of that really great looking resin. We'll go over the details, what I like and what I don't like, and there is some of both. Now let's spin that camera and get started. All right, let's start with the design of this pen. Really very simple. Kind of reminds me of some vintage pens from the 20s and 30s in that, torpedo shape, I guess we'll call it today. Very similar, for example, to the Schaefer Balance or more recently the Pen BBS 480 in shape. It's not identical in shape. You'll notice it's more rounded at the ends than that, but it does come to a similar taper and then to that rounded point. It does have a somewhat unique clip, at least as far as I can remember. Kind of a stiff one, but it does have enough of a kind of a duck bill shape that it goes right over the fabric or the pen loop or the whatever. Works well. It's a bit of a minimalist pen despite the dynamic acrylic that it is made of. There's no trim pieces or anything like that. Just very well turned Galaxy acrylic. Really nice smooth transition there at the end of the cap, and it all looks really good here on the outside. No complaints in the fit and finish of this pen so far as I've used it. When you go to take the cap off, some of you like to know how many turns, and it's just over one, not even a full 1 1/4. And then you see there threads in the acrylic and a matching acrylic section, which I do like. It's nice and comfortable. Again, very similar to the Balance or to the Pen BBS 480. But one thing you don't always get in an acrylic pen is a plastic sleeve, and you can see it down in there. So it does have a plastic sleeve to help prevent dry out. Now the pen does post and does so securely, and the pen is nice and balanced when you do so. Unposted, the pen is long enough, I think, for most hands to write with comfortably. And as the ergonomics go, I think that feels quite good. It's not overly thin or overly large diameter, and the way that they have turned it, it's nice and comfortable. And when we open up the pen, it does come with a converter, and that is in the Chinese standard 2.6 millimeter size, I believe. So you will be able to use standard international cartridges. Be a little bit of a tight fit, but they will work. Now, one of the reasons that I bought this pen was because of the Schmidt nib. I generally have great luck. In fact, the last several Schmidt nibs I've gotten have been absolutely fantastic out of the box. And since this was an unknown brand, I thought getting one of their pens with the Schmidt nib would ensure that we get off on the right foot. However, I was a little bit wrong in that. Unfortunately, my Schmidt nib that came in this pen just needed a little bit of tuning. Just a slight misalignment. I'm not sure I've exactly gotten it just right, but I'm working on it. But it was a good reminder that that does happen every now and then, even when you've had a nib from a certain company several times in a row and had really great luck. But I think I've just about got it tuned to where I want it with just maybe a slight bit of tweaking after I'm done with this. Typical plastic feed for that Schmidt nib unit, and flow and everything like that seems to be fine. So design-wise, overall, I really like it. It's a classic shape. I like they went with kind of a different, because when a pen is nothing but a simple shape, that clip becomes more of its design. And I really like that the simplicity highlights that Galaxy Blue resin. It's a favorite of mine. I collect it. I know some of you do as well. And this just kind of shows you that with the right material, a simple design can be really quite sharp. All right, for our size comparison today, of course, you have that Tangmoon pen in the Blue Galaxy, the 480 from Pen BBS that I mentioned. Very, very similar shape, both Schaefer Balance inspired pens, and both with a little bit of a unique approach to their design. Really like this cedar resin, but that is really hard to find these days in our market. And then you have the Asvine P20, a piston filler pen, and you have the venerable Jinhao 51A, and that blue-green acrylic. I just have to get that out every now and then because it's such a fun pen. Then here we have the pens posted, and here you see the biggest difference. This is, again, a number 5 Schmidt nib, and so it looks a little small next to the number 6s of the 480 and the Asvine P20, but I don't think it looks out of balance with this pen by itself. You see, if those pens aren't there, I think it looks fine. I think it goes well with that design. And that's usually the issue with a number 5 versus a number 6 nib, is does it suit that particular pen's design? Functionally, there's really not a whole lot of difference, although people definitely have their preferences. And you can see that in its posted length, it's about average, middle of the pack in this particular lineup. And in their unposted and uncapped length, it is the shortest of these, but not by a whole lot. Mostly, as you can see next to the 480, it is the difference in the length of that nib. And maybe surprising, the number 5 nib Jinhao 51A is actually still longer than that pen as well. All right, but you're wondering, how does the pen actually write? Well, let's see here. Again, that name, is Tangmoon. And this is a fine number 5 Schmidt nib. And again, normally, I just don't have any problems with Schmidt nibs just writing really well right out of the box. I've got a few right here on my desk, and all of those, a couple of them from Scrivener, one from Andhand, I believe is a Schmidt nib, just right here on the desk. I've got a few. They all write just absolutely the way I would want them to and expect them to right out of the box. This one just had a little bit of a nib alignment. I don't know if it'll show up again. Sometimes you kind of try to get those nibs aligned, and then as soon as you're done, that metal just kind of goes back. We'll see if it presents while we're looking here. Today, the ink is Birmingham Pen Company, and it is cold steel. It's a dark blue, really nice ink. Check the wetness. Not too bad. A little dry, but not too bad. I can tell you it sounds better than it did out of the box. That's not what I was supposed to be writing at all. That's funny. I'm sure a crystallized orange drink is not what they had in mind when they came up with their name. I'm not going to do a flexing test. It's not meant to be a flex nib, and it might mess up what I've done to try and fix this one a little bit. I will show you just kind of the back and forth. Yeah, that's writing a little bit better. There's still a little drag on the up, and there's a drag going from left to upper right, lower left to upper right, and like in an S or something like that. Didn't notice it there as I wrote that, but that's kind of where I'm feeling it. I haven't tried reverse writing. So that's probably the alignment thing, that it has more ink on reverse like that. Something's a little something, We'll try our speed test, and I almost didn't want to do a speed test because earlier I think it would have annoyed me, frankly. Let's see here. Okay, there's a little something. You might have heard it, and it's around the same place. This is not, for once it was not me. This is it. See, it's that lower left to the upper right. There's just a little bit of an alignment issue. So, what do I like and what do I not like about the pen? I love this blue acrylic material, Galaxy Blue, but you knew that already. And they've handled that well, okay? The turning on this, the polishing on this pen, absolutely perfect. I found no flaws. It's fantastic. The clip, I like that it's that duckbill clip and a little bit less of a cookie cutter clip. It's a little stiff, but it works just fine. It does include a converter, nothing special, but it's there, and I always appreciate it when they're there. I'm only really disappointed that my Schmidt nib was the actual letdown part of the pen, because when I ordered it, I thought, well, if the pen turns out to be a dud, at least there's a good Schmidt nib in it. And instead, it's the Schmidt nib that was off a bit, and the pen, aside from that, is knocking it out of the park. So would I tell you, up or down on this pen? I'm going to tell you kind of in the middle. Up definitely on the pen overall in terms of the way it's made, and I think the price point is, right in line with Pen BBS and other pens, very similar. I would hope that you would get a better nib out of the box than I will. And listen, that can happen to any company, and it's not just Tangmoon, and it's not just Schmidt. I've had literally, I think, every German company I bought a pen from, I've had a nib that needed a little something. Every Japanese pen company that I've bought a pen from, except for Sailor, but I've only had a couple. Only one with a gold nib, all the rest are steel. I don't think I've had to do anything to any of those. I have had to tweak a platinum. I have had to tweak a pilot. It happens, okay? That does happen. So the thing is, if you're okay with that, if you're okay with nib swapping, if you decide you don't like the nib it comes with, then, it's hard to beat the pen and the shape and the acrylic for the price if you're looking for a Galaxy Blue pen, which in some pens and models can be very difficult to find. I would like a Pen BBS 480 in Galaxy Blue, but every time I look for one, they're sold out. Every single time for the last 3 years. And I know you can get them on Taobao now and then, but my one experience shopping with Taobao through that whole process for an American, so not worth it. Good pens that I got, but the experience was total, it's not happening. So you're taking a little bit of a chance. If you're fine with nib swapping, if you don't get a great nib, then I'd go for it. They do have some interesting things over at Tangmoon, though. They seem to have pens that go from this price point, which was in the upper 20s, all the way up to a couple $100 with gold nibs. Have no idea how those pens perform, and I can't find anything beyond a few posts on Reddit or fountain pen forums, but information there too is very, very thin on the ground. So I don't feel like I have a good feel overall for the company. But this pen, I really do like, despite needing to do a little bit of tweaking on the nib. What do you think? Have you gotten a Tangmoon at all? They have a cool Schrodinger's cat nib in a number 6 that I might have to check out. That one looks pretty cool, and a lot of people have been talking about that. But what about the pens themselves? I would love to know if everybody else is having similar or better or worse experience than what I've just had. Share that in the comments below. Thank you. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.